When money stops working, for most of modern life, money feels permanent. You wake up, go to work, receive a salary, and exchange that money for food, electricity, and shelter. The entire structure of society rests on the quiet assumption that currency will always hold value tomorrow. But history tells a different story. There have been moments when money didn't simply lose a little value. It stopped functioning altogether. Banks closed their doors, paper bills became meaningless. Prices changed so fast that people stopped even trying to count them. And when that happens, something fascinating occurs. People don't stop trading, they don't stop cooperating, they don't stop building an economy. Instead, they build a new one, not designed by economists, not controlled by governments, not written into law. A parallel system emerges, an underground economy. This is the story of how millions of ordinary people survived when official money became worthless, and how they rebuilt economic life from scratch. The collapse of official money. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing your savings can't buy food. The money sitting in your bank account still exists on paper. The numbers are still there, but nobody wants it. This has happened many times in history. Hyperinflation destroys trust in currency faster than almost anything else. When governments print massive amounts of money to pay debts, fund wars, or rescue failing systems, each new bill makes the previous ones worth less. At first, the change is subtle. Prices rise slowly, then faster. Soon, wages cannot keep up. Eventually, the entire system breaks down. Farmers refuse to sell food for paper that loses value by the hour. Shops close because they cannot restock inventory. Workers demand payment in anything other than cash. At that moment, the economy faces a choice. Wait for the government to fix the currency, or invent a new system immediately. Throughout history, people almost always choose the second option, markets without permission. One of the most surprising facts about economics is how quickly markets appear. They don't require government buildings. They don't require banks. They don't even require official money. They only require three things: people who need something, people who have something, and the freedom to exchange. When official systems collapse, informal markets often appear within days. Empty squares become trading posts. Street corners become marketplaces. People bring whatever goods they have: tools, clothing, food, fuel, medicine. At first, the exchanges are simple: a jacket for bread, a watch for potatoes, a pair of shoes for cooking oil. But barter has a major problem. Economists call it the double coincidence of wants. Both sides must want exactly what the other person offers. If you have rice but need medicine, you must find someone who has medicine and wants rice. That rarely works efficiently. So even in the most chaotic conditions, societies begin searching for something better than barter. They begin searching for money. How new money appears. Money is often misunderstood. It is not valuable because governments declare it valuable. It is valuable because people agree to use it for exchange. Throughout history, many unexpected items have become currency during crises. Cigarettes, salt, fuel, sugar, even bottles of alcohol. These items succeed as money because they share certain characteristics. They are widely desired. They are portable. They are divisible into smaller units. And they are difficult to fake. When a commodity satisfies those conditions, people naturally begin pricing everything in terms of it. Soon, the new currency spreads through the market. Someone might say, 1 meal equals 2 cigarettes. A repair service equals 10 cigarettes. A jacket equals 50 cigarettes. Without any official announcement, a functioning monetary system appears. Not designed. Discovered: the skill economy. During monetary collapse, one asset becomes more valuable than any currency: skill. A person who can produce something useful instantly becomes economically powerful. Consider the types of skills that matter most during crisis. Mechanics who can repair broken machines. Doctors who can treat illness. Farmers who grow food. Carpenters who repair damaged homes. Electricians who restore power. Tailors who mend clothing. Each of these skills creates value that other people urgently need. And when people need something badly enough, they will find a way to pay for it. Sometimes payment comes in food, sometimes in fuel, sometimes in whatever commodity has become the local currency. But the important lesson remains the same. Human capital, the ability to produce value, cannot be inflated, confiscated, or printed by a government. It travels with you, and during economic breakdowns, it becomes the foundation of survival. The hidden supply chains. One of the most remarkable aspects of underground economies is how complex they become. At first they look like simple street markets, but underneath the surface, entire supply chains form. Farmers begin selling crops directly to urban traders. Transporters move goods between cities and rural areas. Repair workers maintain vehicles. Storage facilities quietly hold supplies. Gradually, the informal network begins to mirror a full national economy. Prices stabilize. Regular trade routes appear. Merchants specialize in certain products. Even credit systems begin to develop. A shopkeeper might allow a trusted customer to take goods today and repay later. Trust becomes the most valuable currency of all. In many cases, these underground systems feed more people than the official economy during the crisis itself. The system may be unofficial, but it is far from chaotic. It is highly organized, just invisible to formal institutions. The power of local trust. Large financial systems rely on contracts, regulations, and enforcement. Underground economies rely on something much older: reputation. In small trading networks, people know each other personally. A mechanic who cheats customers quickly loses business. A farmer who consistently provides good products gains loyal buyers. Trust spreads through social networks faster than legal contracts ever could. Communities with strong local relationships often survive crises far better than those where everyone operates anonymously. Neighbors trade services. Local producers supply essential goods. Small networks cooperate to solve problems that governments cannot address quickly. In many ways, these systems resemble ancient marketplaces that existed long before modern banks. But they operate using the same basic principle that drives all economies: mutual benefit. When parallel economies fail, however, underground economies are not perfect. They have limits. The biggest challenge is scale. Small networks built on personal trust can function smoothly, but when millions of people suddenly try to join, problems emerge. Counterfeiting begins. Some participants take more from the system than they contribute. New currencies get printed too quickly. Soon inflation appears inside the alternative system itself. Without strong rules or shared trust, the new economy can collapse just as quickly as it formed. History shows that parallel economies work best when they remain local, disciplined, and built on real production rather than unlimited credit. Once trust disappears, the entire structure weakens, just like any other financial system. The return of official money. Eventually, most monetary crises end. Governments reform the currency. New money replaces the old. Banks reopen. Prices stabilize. When that happens, something surprising occurs. The underground economy fades almost overnight. Goods that were hidden suddenly appear in official shops. Producers begin accepting the new currency. The informal markets shrink, not because authorities shut them down, but because people no longer need them. Their purpose was temporary. They existed only to bridge the gap between a broken system and a trusted one. Once stable money returns, the underground network quietly dissolves. But the lessons it leaves behind are powerful. The real lesson of economic survival. History repeatedly shows something that many textbooks overlook. Economic systems are not fragile because of money. They are resilient because of people. When institutions fail, when currencies collapse, when banks freeze accounts, human cooperation does not disappear. It adapts. Ordinary people invent new ways to trade. They create markets from empty streets. They transform everyday goods into currency. They build trust networks that replace formal financial systems. The underground economy is not just a black market. It is proof of something deeper. Economic life does not depend on paper bills or digital numbers in bank accounts. It depends on human ingenuity. As long as people have skills, resources, and the freedom to exchange them, an economy will always reappear. Sometimes smaller, sometimes informal, but always alive. Because when money fails, people do not stop trading. They simply start over. And that is the real story behind every underground economy in history. The psychology of trust. Economists often analyze money as numbers, charts, and interest rates. But at its core, money is psychological. A piece of paper only becomes currency when millions of people collectively believe it has value. Once that belief disappears, the system collapses faster than most governments expect. During monetary crises, trust evaporates in stages. First, people stop saving money. Then they begin converting it into goods. Finally, they stop accepting it altogether. When that final stage arrives, trust must be rebuilt from the ground up. But trust rarely returns instantly to national institutions. Instead, it begins locally. Neighbors trust neighbors. Customers trust familiar shopkeepers. Communities trust producers they know personally. These small trust networks become the backbone of the underground economy. In many ways, they resemble the earliest forms of economic cooperation in human history, long before modern banks or central currencies existed. When global financial systems break, society often falls back on these older, more personal forms of trust. And surprisingly, they work. Technology and the modern underground economy. Today, the structure of underground economies is changing. Digital technology has introduced new tools that did not exist in earlier crises. Mobile phones allow buyers and sellers to coordinate instantly. Encrypted messaging platforms connect local trade networks. Online marketplaces can organize informal exchanges without physical storefronts. Even digital currencies have begun appearing in regions where traditional banking systems are unstable. Some people turn to decentralized financial systems because they believe these systems cannot be manipulated by governments or central banks. Others simply use them as a way to store value when local currencies lose credibility. But technology does not eliminate the basic rules of economics. Trust still matters. Scarcity still matters. Real goods and services must still exist behind any currency. Without production, no financial system, digital or physical, can survive. Technology may change the tools of underground economies, but it does not change the human behavior that creates them. What history teaches about preparation. Most people assume economic collapse is something that happens suddenly and without warning, but historically, crises usually develop gradually. Currency values weaken, prices rise, confidence declines. Financial stress builds for years before reaching the breaking point. This means communities that already possess strong social connections often adapt far more effectively than those that rely entirely on distant institutions. Local farmers' markets, neighborhood repair services, community organizations, professional trade networks. These systems create economic resilience long before any crisis appears. When trouble arrives, they provide something extremely valuable: a functioning web of trust. People who already know each other's skills, reliability, and reputation can begin trading immediately without needing to rebuild relationships from scratch. In that sense, the strongest preparation for economic instability is not stockpiles of goods. It is social capital. Connections between people who can help each other when official systems fail. The economy beneath the economy. If you look closely at any modern city, you can already see the beginnings of a parallel economy. Freelancers working outside traditional employment. Local repair workers paid directly by customers. Neighborhood food vendors operating informally. Online marketplaces connecting individuals without corporate intermediaries. These systems exist quietly beneath the official economy. Most of the time they remain small, almost invisible. But during crises they can expand rapidly, absorbing millions of participants almost overnight. This hidden layer of economic activity acts like a pressure valve. When formal systems become too rigid, too slow, or too fragile, people naturally shift into alternative networks. It is not rebellion. It is adaptation. The underground economy is not a separate world. It is simply the economy stripped down to its most fundamental components: people, goods, skills, trust. As long as those elements exist, economic life continues, even when money itself stops working. And that is the deeper lesson history leaves us with. Money may fail, institutions may collapse, but human exchange, the simple act of trading value for value, has survived every crisis humanity has ever faced. Which means that beneath every economic disaster lies the same quiet truth. The economy never truly disappears. It just changes shape.